Hello and welcome to Marketing Communications with me, your host, Daniel Rahman. 2019 has been an interesting year for the media and marketing and communications space. While we have seen a decline in traditional media such as newspapers, out-of-home television and radio, we have seen an increase in communications and marketing spend in the digital space. And this resonates with members of the industry who tend to spend more in this area. So in understanding the trends as we close 2019 and as we approach 2020, I have today a guest with me, Ms. Yan from Aioli Communications. Yan is a businesswoman, entrepreneur, advocate, and mother, and she has extensive experiences across various industries. Thanks for being with us, Yan.
Thank you, Daniel, for having me.
How are you today?
Good.
And let's get right into it.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I've known you as a communications practitioner. What drives you?
Wow, there are many things that drive me. But before that, if I may, I would like to introduce a little bit where I come from. So
Sure.
I am currently the CEO of Aioli Communications, which is an integrated communications agency. We started about 5 years ago as a traditional PR agency, but adapting following the market demands, about 2 years ago, we started adapting the current trends. So today, instead of just a traditional PR agency providing traditional PR services, we are known as an integrated communications. The word integrated communications itself tells a lot, you know?
Right.
Yes.
And so on that, we usually understand marketing communications as being about increasing sales and brand awareness.
Yeah.
But when you say integrated, I'd like to think that there's more to it than just that. So what do you mean by integrated?
So there are many ways for us to look at it. So integrated firstly, when it comes to integrated, it's very holistic. So we're talking about using different approaches, different mediums to actually complement or supplement whatever the marketing activities or marketing exercise that an organization is doing, either for the quarter or for the whole year. And when it comes to that, I think it comes back to what fuels an organizations, because there is this thing. For an organization, usually they feel like they know what their customers want. Okay? Between that and the actual perception that the customers have,
Right.
there lies a gap.
Right.
So what is the gap?
And what is this gap? Yeah.
Yeah. So the gap can be anything. Different industry, different organization. Especially today, we've got so many startups, right? So when we talk about startups themselves, they're trying to ride on the power of technologies and innovations.
Right.
So when we talk about that, it is clearer, because when it comes to tech and innovations, the gap is clearer because you know what the problems are, so that you come in and provide the solutions. That
Right.
is the business model, correct?
Right.
And then we're talking about the communications gap.
Okay.
Between the one that I said earlier, between what they think they know, what they think the consumers or the customers need,
Right.
and what the customers actually need.
All right. So if you could then summarize the top 3 gaps that the industry tends to have when it comes to their marketing communication strategy, what would these gaps be?
Okay, so first of all, today we are heading towards very much data-oriented or data-driven age, correct? We are all talking about digitalization.
Sure.
So it's similarly to marketing communications or advertising or the traditional marketing. Today, the gap is the organizations, they don't know what the consumers or the customers want.
Okay.
So they lack of the data intelligence.
Right.
That's
so
one.
data intelligence. One.
Data
Okay.
intelligence. And two, many organizations are not willing to see the other elements of success, the other elements of outcome. So many organizations are so sales oriented. They only look at sales.
But what's wrong with being sales oriented? Because we find that's the bottom line, right? That's what keeps the business going. That's what allows companies to pay salaries. What's wrong with being
It's good.
fixed on the bottom
It's
line.
good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's the reason why there are so many approach in order for them to reach their desired end results.
Right.
See, most of the time the results, the end results is the KPI,
Right.
correct? And the sales, right?
Right.
And there are many ways for them to actually achieve that.
Okay.
That's why public relations come into the picture.
Okay.
That's why marketing comes into the picture, digital marketing and traditional guerrilla marketing. So what they need to understand is when you bring in all these approaches, when you bring in all these consultants from different agencies to work on something to help you achieve that desired end result, which is the KPI at the end of the year, the success rate for all these four is different.
Right.
So for communications, for public relations, it's very much visibility, the
Right.
credibility.
But it sounds
of the
very
brand.
sophisticated. And what do you think can help companies better understand?
Wow, that is actually, okay, first of all, I like to think that the business leaders, the organizations, when they decide to actually engage a different consultant to help them, they need to understand the value of each services
Right.
will bring to the table. So what PR will actually bring to the table, what advertising, and what digital marketing will bring to the table. So they cannot get mixed up by only thinking so sales and figures oriented. They don't see that say for example, for instance, public relations. We
Right.
talk about visibility, credibility. We are talking about emotional attachment among the target audience, right? Which is actually success.
Right.
But the business leaders, they can't see this. So there's a lot of educating work needs to be done. There's a lot of the different consultants, different agencies, when it comes to this communications industry,
Right.
they need to work together in
Right.
educating that client, because we are supposed to work together
Right.
to help them achieve that desired
Right.
end results that they want.
So you're saying that the digital marketing space is getting more sophisticated, and there are multiple verticals that a business needs to work with across the different platforms. Hold on to that point. We're going to take a short commercial break after this, and we'll be right back on marketing communications. Welcome back. Today we are discussing marketing communications trends for 2020, and with me is Yan, the CEO of Aioli Communications Sdn Bhd. All right, Yan, so talking about communications, and as we enter 2020, what are the key trends that industry practitioners as well as marketing and communicators generally need to look out for?
Okay, so there are two things here. The trends that we need to look out for are not only for the communications practitioner. The
Okay.
organizations, the marketing, the in-house marketing, the startups who can't afford to engage agencies, they need to look out for these trends. Recently, I attended a summit where the panelists discussed about the trends for 2020. And I managed to take a few takeaways. In fact, I've shared with some of our industry players. One of them is actually to really leverage on technology. You know, with the rise of AI, you know, it mimics the human intelligence, and more than half of the business leaders worldwide believe that AI can actually do two things. One is they can actually reduce the repetitive tasks
Okay.
among the organizations and employees, and two, they can actually do work better
Okay.
than human.
Right.
So what happened is it's been practiced worldwide, but here in Malaysia it's not so much, you know. It's either we're talking about MNCs, the big organizations, or let alone the startups. So this is something that they need to look out for. They need to really leverage on the power of technology and innovation,
Right.
not only AI, it's just an example.
Right.
The next would be content management and curation.
Content management
So
curation. Okay.
when it comes to creating an awareness, you know, creating that market appeal for your brands, you know, for your products and services. In the past, there was, even until now, we have editorial, we have
Right.
all these articles and all that. It's very wordy, it's very testy. But for the next year, for 2020, even the media, especially here in Malaysia, we're talking about the Malaysian landscape, we are heading towards sponsored content. We're talking about paid content. So when it comes to this term is not advertorial. It's not the wordy and texty kind. It's very visually appealing, infographics, videos.
Right. Okay. So two trends: AI as well as content curation. I'd like to ask you a little bit about AI. So you know, technology is a big buzzword. Everybody gets very excited by it, but not many people tend to understand it. What do you think are the gaps that exist with companies that want to get to use more technology in their marketing and communications efforts and actually turning that into a reality?
Right. This is a really good question, because that is the very simple thing is actually to get the industry, to get the organizations to understand. Many of them think that AI is so high level. Right. It's so techy. It's too much for them to adapt. To use. It's very simple. Recently, there was this article in Russia where the farmer used VR headset and put on their dairy cows to actually eliminate the anxiety, and subsequently resulted in good production of milk, better yield. It's very simple, as simple as that. And that farmer didn't even come up with that technology himself. It's just that they believe that can help them. It's as simple as being a farmer and come up with good yield.
But how does this simplicity and accessibility in technology translate in the marketing arena when we also see that companies may be hesitant to invest in this? How do you tell them this is where investment needs to be targeted?
Okay, to me today, the business leaders need to equip themselves with the current trends, right? Most of the organizations leaders, the business leaders are doing that. But even so, there are so many initiatives, whether by the private sectors or by the government, who are actually trying to, where they are trying to show that all these technologies and innovations will actually fill in the gap that we have today. So you don't need to be super smart. You don't need to know everything about AI, about technologies and innovation. But I think the main point, say for example for us as a consultant, so what we tell our clients is, do you trust me or not? We come to you with this set of data, case studies. People have done this and this and this. So if they trust that it can work to help them achieve what they wanted to achieve, as simple as that, then they can actually engage with people who are an expert in that area.
So talking about experts and people in the area, the second trend you mentioned earlier was the notion of content being king, and that's been written about and talked about extensively. My understanding is new media marketing efforts tend to be, mostly often driven by young people, those who are more savvy with the digital technology and those who have kind of more creative ideas and understand the notions of viral and influencers and all of that. So talking about the role of the youth in, marketing communications in 2020, what are your thoughts on that? And as your organization, do you have, how do young people help you in your business?
Okay, I think every generation has their own strength and maybe even flaws, right? So the good thing about the young generation is they can get very creative. There is this thing that's called creative communications, one of the courses, I think one of the majors in the public universities today. And it's so amazing. Some of the interns who come to us who actually graduated or going to graduate in creative communications, they're one of the most creative people that I've ever met. Because you know why? Because they're not tied down to what's wrong and what's right. Because they leverage on the power of social media a lot. They are basically glued on their screen, correct? So they see a lot of things, a lot of trending conversations that are happening outside of Malaysia, and they actually bring that to work. And the good thing about this is they don't have experience like we old timers do. So they don't need to think whether is this right, is this wrong. So they go ahead and propose, and we know for sure that it can lead somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. So when we talk about these trends and we talk about the role of youth in all of this, what do you think are the common mistakes that organizations tend to make when they come up with their media plans?
Okay, organizations, first of all, many organizations have, you see, when they start the year, they have their KPI.
Okay, sorry, yeah, we've got to go to commercial. Hold that thought and we'll get back to you after this. And we are back discussing marketing communication trends for 2020 with Yan Lim, the CEO of Aioli Communications, Niam Berhad. So moving on, the question we have is, beyond commercial aims, we often hear about companies positioning for sustainability and purpose. You yourself support various causes such as women empowerment, Girls in Tech Malaysia, and the Women Empowerment Network Association. So Yan, what are your thoughts of these non-commercial goals and the sense of purpose that companies are trying to espouse vis-a-vis the greater marketing and communications efforts?
All right, so those were the days where I come from. I'm
Right.
quite old in the industry. So where I came from, there was CSR and
Right.
purely that. Today we have impact projects, we have social enterprises, we still have CSR. So for me, when an organization, when they are in the midst of deciding what to embark on for the next year, it shouldn't be just, okay, I have 300,000 a budget for CSR next year. Let's just pick one and do something. It has to be more than that. They have to do due diligence. What is trending when it comes to this area? What are the impacts that they want to achieve? How can the cause or the project that they choose to embark on sustain? So it shouldn't be just feed the homeless and there's no sustainability there.
Right.
How you have to think of things that will actually sustain. Then you can measure the impact. Then only we can consider as a success.
Right. But how does this, oftentimes this seem as very trendy and arguably could even be tokenism, right? But how does this factor into larger marketing and communication efforts of organizations?
Okay, so because today we have heard of SDGs,
Right.
we have heard of impact measurement, right?
Right. And SDGs, you mean UN Sustainable Development Goals?
That's correct.
All right.
So today, if we talk to organizations, big enough organizations, so what they do actually, they have a strategic partnership with either social enterprises or another entity, another organizations. So they don't do everything themselves in-house.
Right.
People don't do that anymore. By doing that, you can measure the impact because you're working with people who are expert in the area. That's one.
Right.
And two, these people have more resources, more brain power, more mind space to actually do that.
So how important then is it that organizations also get involved in more social causes to drive brand awareness or as part of a brand strategy?
It's super important.
All right.
It's really important. I mean, I cannot stress enough how important it is for organizations to be involved, to get involved in social causes. Example, this is not our client. So say for example, Taylor's Education Group. So Taylor's Education Group, they work with these B40 families, they work with OKUs, they work with single parents, both mom and dad, to actually provide them with entrepreneurial programs.
Right.
And beyond that, the children who are their beneficiaries also get programs, also benefit from the programs that mom and dad and the family are going through. And the partner for this program is actually one of the largest banks in Malaysia.
Okay.
And this is an example where they don't do it themselves. They work with another organization who have been doing this project and who are capable of measuring the impact.
All right, so thank you. I want to come back to the point on 2020 trends. And one of the things is digital skills, understanding the changes in digital platforms, media buys, etc. So for people who want to enter and be able to leverage on these new emerging technologies, what are the essential skills required in 2020 for someone who wants to get into kind of like this new age marketing communication space?
All right. I think it should not wait in 2020, but since we are already wrapping up the year and we are going into 2020,
Yep.
The organizations need to work faster and smarter. We need to be more data driven.
Okay.
We need to create more data informed campaigns, especially in communications, because by understanding what the target audience, what the consumers behavior, what they want, then only you can be productively obsessed with them and give them what exactly that they need. And the other thing is data analytics.
Right.
So the thing about data analytics, with the existence of all these sophisticated tools out there, you need to tap onto that. You need to leverage onto that. It's not cheap, I know, but it's good because it's very straightforward. You can measure, say for example, a media coverage in the media in print. It's really difficult now. We are measuring with PR value, but with this kind of sophisticated tools, it's more measurable.
Right. So you're saying there's a need for people to be equipped with digital skills. There needs to be data analytics competence as well as understand media platforms. But what about the creation of content itself? People who have creative ideas, which are intangibles, or people who are good at graphic designs?
Well, again, it's data. So these people, they are good at graphic designs, for instance, right? So they know how to design. They are creative, right? They have this creative juice. But they cannot do everything on their own. So they need to work with people who are able to contribute when it comes to the content. What kind of data needs to be put out there? Because you can't simply plug something on the web and just put it into an infographics. You need to plug something that is relevant to the current market, and is newsworthy or trending.
Do you think that the industries are appreciating enough people like graphic designers and the creative side? Because oftentimes the conversation goes into technology and AI, but those are more of the platforms and the spaces as opposed to the creation of content. Do you think there's enough appreciation?
I think I'm not sure how to answer that, but
why is that?
But I think it really depends nowadays, because there is this issue of budgeting.
Okay.
Because people are so concerned about budget, about money spent and all that. Because money is important, right? It will subsequently translate into your ROI and your KPI. But in terms of the appreciation, I think we can do better.
Right.
We can do better. Can I just add one quick one? Because many people always approach all these creative people and say, hey, do for free. It's good for your portfolio. I think people really need to stop doing that.
Okay, so and last question before we wrap up, and it comes back to something I asked you a bit earlier. So what are the key strategies do you think companies should have in store in order to continue growing? Or maybe from IOLI Communications and Berhad's perspective, what are the key strategies you'll be looking at for next year?
Okay, there are two things that matter to us. One is data intelligence. We have been doing that for a year now. We are going to continue doing that and leverage on data so that our campaigns or the proposed communications plan that we're going to propose to clients are not simply dig out from an old template or proposal. So it's going to be really data driven. And secondly, we foresee ourselves to collaborate with IT companies, tech companies, to leverage on their skills, on their tech, on their innovation, so that we can actually add more value to our clients.
All right. So thank you very much, Jan. That's all the time we have today. And here you have it, folks. Jan has shared about the outlook for next year. A lot of it will involve technology, data, as well as content and curation. And we hope that we will see a more robust and dynamic media marketing space for 2020. Thank you very much for joining me, Daniel Rahman, on Marketing Communications.